Hi everyone, this is Rehatch Designs by Tina Williams. I hope everyone's doing well today. I have 4 projects to show you, but first off I wanted to flip through all of these decoupage papers that I just put on my website. These are just some of the new ones that I got in. There's actually more that I hopefully by the time you're seeing this you'll get to see all of them. They are on there, and I also am offering 10% for anyone new to the website. And also, if you've never used that 10%, even if you're returning, it'll still work. I also offer free shipping over $50, flat rate shipping of $8 under $50. So check it out if you're interested in any of these. There's some really pretty ones in there. And I'm going to be using quite a few of these in some upcoming videos, so you may want to purchase a few just to kind of tag along. I'm not positive which ones. There's so many good ones. There's no way I can get to all of them, but there's just quite a few that I would love to be able to do them all, but I probably won't get to. I think I'm going to be using these 2 cows. I'm probably going to use the barn and the church and this horse in the upcoming video. And then this little cut apart one, I'm for sure going to use that. And we will see. Anyway, project number 1, let's get right into it. The first project I am using frames 1 and 2 molds that I already cast with resin, and I'm going to be painting these with Fusion's Highlander. It's a really pretty red, and it's not too purple. It's not a bright red, but it's a deeper red, but it doesn't have like too much of a maroon tone to it. I love it. I used it a lot at Christmas time. Anyway, it's going to look like a crime scene in here with all the red that I'm using, but I like it because it's not too bright and in your face really. So I'm going to paint all of these, and it takes 2 coats. And I also do the back of these because you'll be able to see the back with the project that we're doing. The one good thing about the Fusion paint that it has a primer and a top coat in, so we won't have to do anything to these other than just paint them and let them dry. So after they're dry, I'm going to be going over these with Fusion liming. It's a white wax, and I love their waxes. They are just so creamy and go on so good. Anyway, I'm going to go over these with the white wax. It's going to get in all of those little detailed areas, and I'm wiping it off with just a rag. And then I'm going to be doing each of these. And I also go in the middle part. And also, if you want to know how I did the middle part in this, I'll try and remember to link the video that I did that. Because this particular frame does not come with that backing middle part. And people always want to know how I did that. And it's really actually pretty easy. What I was doing there, I just taking a paintbrush, and anywhere that there's too much wax, I just kind of pull it out, make sure I get it off of there. And I also make sure that I do to the back what I do with the front, so you will be able to see it later. And now what I'm using is Venetian gold wax, and I normally carry that, but I'm out of it right now. But I just reordered it, so I should get it in any day. Pop your email address in the website, and it'll alert you when it comes back in stock. But anyway, I'm going to go over this, and it's going to pick up all the detail on these, and there's just a lot of detail in these frames molds. And anyway, I think IOD is out of stock on these, but I do think I have a few of both. So if you don't already have them. And anyway, I'm going to get some of the decoupage papers that we looked at with these beautiful little cherubs on it. And I'm going to also use this decoupage paper, and I'm deciding which one will fit in there well. And I picked this one out, and I cut it out of the 4 part there. But I'm taking my fingernail just to kind of mark where I need to cut it. And so I'm going to go around it and just tear it apart. And the thing about rice paper, it has little fibers in it, so it gives a very organic look when you do that. I like that better than just cutting it. And that's why we made sure we put the red and the gold on the back area so that it would just all kind of blend in. Now my idea for this was also too what you could do, and I didn't do it in this, but you could actually print pictures on rice paper. You can buy blank rice paper on Amazon, and you can just print pictures and do the same thing I'm doing here. You can pick pictures of loved ones or whatever. But anyway, just to give you an idea, that's something else you could do with this. And all I'm doing here is I am taking the little cherubs, and I am going ahead and putting my water around and tearing them. And this was one of the other decoupage papers I showed you. And we're going to just cut this down a little bit more just so it fits on there really good. Just take the extra paper off of there. And I'm going to just put that on there. And I'm using Paint Couture's decoupage paper, or decoupage medium in matte. So now I'm just doing the other frame with another one of the little cherubs, and pretty much just following the same process. So now what I'm doing is I have these three little rounds. They're little coasters that I bought, I believe, off of Amazon in bulk. And I'm painting, this is going to be the bottom of what we're making. And then I have these three little dowel sticks. I bought these at the dollar store, but you know, you can get them just about anywhere. And I'm painting those all, painting them all with that same Highlander by Fusion. Again, this has a primer and top coat, so I'm not doing anything to it other than just painting it and letting it dry. And then these little pieces that you have, I think they said that they're candle cups or something, some weird thing. But I am going to be gluing these on to the middle of these rounds. And I used a super glue that has a spray. And then after that, I'm going to go ahead and paint this will be where we attach the dowels to. And what I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead and do the same finishes that I did to the frames, to all of those. And then what I'm going to do is I'm using that same super glue, and I wasn't real swift. I shouldn't have attached the bottom part first. You want to do it this way. You want to take your dowel and you want to go ahead and put your glue. And this stuff, once you spray it on there, it's immediately dry. That's why I'm doing it. You could definitely use Tite Bond or something like that, but this stuff works really well. And then I'm going to glue this into the little candle cup. They call it a candle cup, I think. I don't know why. I don't know what candle would stick in there. But they're little end pieces, basically, that go on dowels. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. And I'm going to go ahead and put a top on it. So this is basically going to make like a little stand. And I do that to all three of them. then I decided to go ahead and go over these with Amber Honey by Paint Couture, and I didn't show you that. That's just a glaze, just to darken it up a little. And then after they did that, it kind of dulled the gold, but I decided to go over it with Paint Couture's French Gold and just give it a little bit of contrast with the other gold. And I think they turned out really cute. And like I said, I could see putting pictures in here, but I think they turned out really cute. So project number 2, this is one that kind of evolved as I did it. These are some pieces of wood that I bought for a banner. Bought this on Amazon. I will try and link something like it. When I went to go look for the same thing, they were out of stock or they weren't selling them anymore. But you could definitely even do this with cardboard or even thick cardstock if you wanted to. So I went over all of these with that same Highlander from Fusion and let it dry. And now what I'm doing is I'm mixing some milk paint. And milk paint is a powdered paint that you put 50 percent your milk paint, 50% water. You mix it up, and I actually added a little bit too much water to this, but you let it sit out for about 10 minutes and then you go over it. And I am going over each one of these, going over the ones that I painted with the Fusion, and I'm going over it with the milk paint. And you can see milk paint is kind of watery and it goes on kind of watery. It takes a couple coats, but it does. The second coat, you'd be surprised. I actually ended up doing like 5 of these because originally I was going to do something different, but I only used 3. But anyway, I go over all of these with the milk paint, and the milk paint I'm using is creamy, and it is by Sweet Pickins. And whenever I use my milk paint, I always pretty much use my heat gun to dry it because that causes additional cracking. And part of the reason I use milk paint, and I think a lot of people use milk paint, is to get that wonderful crackling. It's a very natural looking aging effect. Yeah, you can use crackle paint, but it's not quite as natural as this and organic. And so anyway, I always go over it with my heat gun, and you'll get all these cracks, and I'm rubbing off the little extra. Now, one thing to note, if you use milk paint on raw wood, it doesn't tend to crack very much because a lot of the paint absorbs into the wood. So the reason this is cracking is because I painted the with Fusion paint first, and it has a top coat on it and it's sealed, so it's not being absorbed into the wood. And the reason it's not turning pink is that I used Fusion paint and it has a sealer. I did 2 coats, and then I will go over it with my heat gun. I know a lot of times people think, well, the first coat, if it cracks, they're all excited. They don't want to do the second coat because they're afraid they're going to cover the cracks. Most of the time, it turns out even better. If you watch what I'm doing here, the second bunch of cracks are even better. So now what I'm doing after the milk paint's dry and I heated it all up, I'm going over this with my sanding block. And I'm basically just going over all the edges so that the red shows through. And again, it didn't turn pink because I used the Fusion paint and it had a top coat on it. If you're not using Fusion and you're just using milk paint, you want to make sure you seal that milk paint before you put the white on top or you will get pink. So I'm going to really, really rough this up, guys. I'm taking off a lot of the loose paint, and then I'm taking paint off all the edges, and I love how it turned out. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I love chippy distressed. Anyway, so I am going over these with Sweet Pickens oil wax, the dark oil wax. I use this stuff all the time. I love it. My opinion, nothing works better on the milk paint than the oil wax because it really, really gets in all those little tiny, tiny cracks. So, and it gives it a very authentic old look. Now, if you don't like this kind of thing, you probably wouldn't like the first part of what I did to this anyway. So, but it does make it look very authentic. I do a lot of old windows and shutters and things like that I sell in my booth, and I almost always go through this process, and it authentically makes new things look old. So anyway, I'm going to go over these, and after I put the oil wax on, I basically rub it off almost as soon as I put it on. So then after that, I am going to take the 3 leftover pieces that we had from that piece of decoupage paper, and I'm going to be trimming those basically with the water paintbrush thing and getting a nice rough edge. So now I'm just going to be putting these on with my Paint Couture's decoupage medium in matte. I usually use the matte just because I don't always know what kind of finish I want at the end, and I usually put some sort of top coat on it, so then that way if I don't want it glossy, it has a matte finish. If I want it glossy, then I just put a gloss on top of it. But anyway, I'm going over it, and I'm just putting all these pieces down, and I'm wanting just a very kind of rustic little look to it. Now I have some hearts. I believe I got them on Amazon a long time ago, and I'm going over these just with a rag, just rubbing on some wax. This is Espresso from Fusion. It's just a brown wax. And then I'm using Tickled Pink by Sweet Pickens milk paint that I've already mixed up. And having the wax down is going to make this chip a little bit more and crack a little bit more. That's a tip if you're trying to make your milk paint do some crackling. If you're using raw wood, the issue is that the milk paint will absorb into it and it won't crack. So if you put the wax on it, it'll crack a little bit more. So I'm wanting a lot of chipping on this and cracking. So I did put the wax on it. And of course I'm going to do 2 coats. And each coat I'm going to use my heat gun, and that gives it more crackling and more chipping. Because this is going to go with the rest of our banner that we're making, so it kind of has to match because it has to be kind of chippy. And this is the other part of that decoupage paper. These are the 2 larger cherubs. There's one that's bigger than this too we're going to use later on in the video. But I'm going to go ahead and kind of just cut that out. And then I'm going to decoupage over that. And I'm using my same Paint Couture matte medium to do that. And just kind of pressing down with my finger. There's one thing on rice paper you have to be careful. It's very, very durable, but if you press on it too much, it's very fibrous. If you put too much water on it and use your fingers, what'll happen is you'll start to dissolve the paper. And that's because your fingers are actually kind of rough, and the paper is very fibrous, so it'll start to dissolve. So after these are all dry, I'm taking my oil wax by Sweet Pickens, and I'm going to go over these again. just because I really want this to look like it's something that was painted on and it's been around for a long time. And I kind of felt like the decoupage paper looked just a little bit too new. And this is going to kind of blend it all together. And of course I do the back of these also. Uh, and I'm going to go over the hearts with the oil wax also, just so they all kind of go together, because I really want this to have a very just an old, like this has been around for a really, really long time. And I am taking a little bit of that same pink milk paint, and I'm going in on the little white spots that kind of show against the on the heart, and I'm kind of touching those up a little bit so that it blends more. And now what I'm doing is I'm going to be making some tassels, or really kind of a messy bow. And I'm making, I believe it's 4 of them. And all I'm doing is cutting strips of ribbon, cutting strips of material, anything. I've got some sari silk in there. And I'm using my little, I don't know, is it a bow dazzler or something? Anyway, I bought this on Amazon. I'll try and remember to link all this stuff. I really am bad about that, but I will try and do that. But all you do is put a piece across. You see that sari silk going up and down, and then that's vertical, and then horizontally you just add all your little pieces of ribbon to it. And you obviously do not have to have this to make these bows. I just bought it on a whim, and I kind of thought it was useless. Why should I buy it? But I wound up doing it, and I really like it. It's like that third hand that you always need when you're doing a bow, really, is what it is. So then after you get everything in there that you want, you're going to take a little thing that goes across it and smush all the ribbons down. And it just kind of smushes them all down, gets them in there nice and tight. And then what you do is you just take your other piece and tie a knot. I actually tie 2 knots, and that's it. That makes your messy bow. And I'm going to do 4 of those. So now what I do, I've got this beaded garland, and I am just using some folk art brown wax. I think this is probably the best way to stain things. And I am just staining the garland with that. I mixed it with water so it was a little watery. And now I'm using the milk paint called Truffle. This is a little bit kind of darker grayish. It's a really, really great color if you want something to look old and you don't want to have to put any kind of stain or wax or anything over it. You can see it looks like old paint to me. Anyway, I'm going to go over this, and I'm not trying to be perfect on this. I don't care if some of the brown shows through. I want it to look like maybe it was kind of chipped up a little bit. See, that's how it looks. So it's the perfect old paint look. So all I'm doing here is I am making a tassel to go on the end of the garland, and I just basically took pieces and put them together, then tied off the top, tied it to the end of the garland, and you see those long strings that I added to it. I am just going to use that to wrap around the end of that tassel. And now after I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and tie all of these pieces that we made onto this garland here. And I'm kind of counting the beads to try and get them, equal distance apart. And I'm just using just some twine that I have to continue on with the rustic look. And there's a total of 5 pieces. There's the 3 hearts and then the 2 cherubs. With the 2 cherubs are on the wood hearts. And what we do is I put the tassels in between all of the wood pieces. So there's enough of these to go in between, and I just kind of count my beads and then put them on. And just tie them on. And I kind of trim them up a little bit to make sure they're, pretty much even. And that's it, guys. I think it turned out really cool. And it doesn't really do it justice sitting here. It should be on my fireplace, but I was too lazy to go downstairs and do it. But that would go like on your fireplace or on a doorway or something like that. But I really love this. I think it turned out really, really cool. And it definitely looks rustic. So project number 3. This one is using a heart that I got off of Amazon. It's basically the same size as the one you can get at the Dollar Tree, but I can never find them. But anyway, I think I bought this a couple years ago, but I will try and link it. Anyway, I'm going over it with the same red paint. And I'm going to go over the front and the back. I always finish the back of my pieces, especially if I think I'm going to sell them. And now what I'm doing is I'm mixing up some more of that creamy milk paint. And you can tell I dropped some of the powder on there, but that's okay. We are going to cover this all up with one coat. And it always looks watery like this, and you're thinking, oh gosh, it's going to take 20 coats, but it really doesn't. Most of the time, milk paint, after you put that first coat on, it takes just usually 2 coats. But I always, always, always use my heat gun in between coats to dry, because you want each layer to have cracking. And look at that. Isn't that beautiful? It's gorgeous. No matter how many times I do it, I'm always just loving the crackle. I love it, seeing it. And now you hate putting the second coat on because you're like, oh my gosh, it looks so good. But usually, I can't guarantee it, usually when it cracks that good on the first coat, the second coat turns out even better. And the other cracks still come through, and it's a gorgeous, it's a beautiful thing. If you like this kind of look, it's just a beautiful thing. And there's really no other type of paint that you can get that kind of look. So I'm going over the whole thing, and I want to show you that beautiful crackling. And to see how organic it looks, it's very different than using, like a crackling glue or whatever. So, and I do both sides of this. And the reason I do that is that, again, I like my pieces to be finished, but I could leave them red or whatever. But the thing is, sometimes I don't know what side is going to turn out the best. So I don't really know what the front is until I finish. And, I might like this side better than the other side. So that kind of determines, which side I'm going to use for my project. So I'm going to go over this, and again, it crackled really, really good the first time, and now I'm going over it. I'm getting a lot more chipping in the middle, and it's just gorgeous. So, love it. Just love it. Now I'm taking my little finger sander, and I'm distressing this back a lot. And again, the reason it's not pink is because the Fusion paint has a top coat in it. And I will tell you, I love using Fusion paint for stuff like this because it's tough. It's really tough. It's not coming off. So basically, I'm not going to get down to the wood very easily. Let's put it that way. So that paint's staying on there, and it's perfectly sealed, and it's not going to turn pink. So you're definitely going to see the red coming through. I take off any of the loose stuff, but I definitely go over all the edges and make sure I get that nice, beautiful red showing through. Absolutely gorgeous. I don't know. I love this chippy look. Now, I don't like it on everything, but to me, it's just just a perfect little old look. So I'm going to go ahead and again go over this with the milk, Sweet Pickens oil wax. Now you can use just a regular wax on this, or you could use a glaze, but I'm going to tell you it doesn't work as well as the oil wax. The oil wax, because I think it's thinner, gets in more of those little cracks and stuff. Now if you have not sealed your milk paint, it will change the color of the paint. If you notice, look at that. That bright white is on that side. And now when I put the oil wax on, it is going to make it look, like almost a brownish, grayish kind of look. So this is a Dollar Tree little heart that I got, and it's metal. And I ripped off the little pieces that were stuck on there. And what I'm doing with this is I'm going to be taking some Dixie Belle Iron Patina paint. And if you've watched me at all, you know I love my patinas. And I'm going to go over this with one coat. And it's a very kind of a light finish on there. So I go over it and let it dry. And I go ahead and dry it with my heat gun. Finish drying it with my heat gun. And I'm going to go over this again after I do this coat and let it dry. And this coat's going to be, go on a lot thicker. And after I do this coat, while it's wet, I'm going to be taking the patina sprays that they have. And most of the time on these sprays, I don't usually spray them. And I'm shaking up the yellow patina that comes with this. If you haven't got the yellow when you have the iron, you definitely have to get it. Because although the other colors will make it look rusty, this yellow is just, it's just amazing what it does. So I just have it in a little bowl after I shook it up really well. And I know it looks just awful, but trust me on this, it'll turn out fine. So I'm just using a paintbrush, and I'm just kind of leaving some spots not so, covered. And now I'm spraying the green patina spray on there. There's a green, a blue, and a yellow. And I'm doing that because what it's going to do is it'll affect the yellow and change the color. And then I'm taking the blue patina spray that I have in a little bowl, and I'm kind of splashing it on there. And then I'm going to go over that again with the green a little bit. And all those colors mixed together will give you a variation in color. Now you can leave this for a few hours, an hour maybe, and the patina will change. I have learned on these patinas that if you use your heat gun, I think they turn out even better. So I'm going to go ahead and use my heat gun on this, and just watch right before your eyes. Look at that beautiful, wonderful rusted piece. Absolutely gorgeous. And that is going to go on that heart. And I will fill that hole eventually, you see to the right. Now I have this wood piece. If I had a bigger heart to go in the middle, I might have used that, but I didn't. So this oval piece, I got, I believe, from the dollar store. And I am going over this with my wax from Fusion. I believe it's espresso. And again, I'm doing this kind of like I did on those little hearts before, because what that does is it seals your wood piece. If it's a raw piece, again, if you use the milk paint on a raw piece, it doesn't do much crackling because it's soaking into that raw wood, or not even just raw wood, very old wood or dry wood. You're not going to get a lot of crackling if you do not seal it first somehow. I sealed those other pieces with the Fusion paint because it has a very good built-in sealer. And then the wax is going to seal it. Now the wax, not only does it seal it, but it does act as kind of a resist. You can see that there. And it's actually going to offer more peeling and crackling than you would if you used just a regular sealer. Any kind of wax will do that. So I'm going to go over this and then again dry each layer with my heat gun to get some crackling. And on this one I almost got too much. It started peeling off quite a bit. But in any case, I go back over it and I embrace the peeling and cracking. So this is the big cherub on that piece. And I'm going to go over that, over this. And I'm covering the whole thing with my decoupage medium just because it's also sealing that milk paint because it's really has some big chippy parts on it. You do want to seal it because it'll keep chipping off. And I kind of want to stop it at that point. I don't want it overly chipped off. So I'm going to go ahead and put this piece on there. And just put the matte medium on, and then I'm using my fingers to kind of press down the edges, and I'll go over the top with it and just let that dry completely. So now what I'm doing is I'm using Paint Couture's Amber Honey Glaze, and if you want a glaze that's kind of a medium glaze, I love this. This is becoming one of my new favorites. So I'm going over this whole thing because I want to darken the image a little bit because it looks a little bit too new. And then what I'm doing after I do that is I'm taking some of that oil wax from Sweet Pickins and just going around the edges because there's still, I mean, as thin as the glaze is, it doesn't pick up the cracks as much as the oil wax. So that picked up all that. And then I'm gluing down my rusty part. And guys, I ended up going back and putting Tite Bond Quick and Thick on there because the metal and hot glue don't stay. So I should have known that, but I did pull it all off and put Tite Bond on after I was done with all of it. I don't show you that. And that little hole over there, I paint that in brown later so you can't see it. That's where the little hangers were on that metal thing. And I glued the little cherub on. I made a bow for the middle of it. And I want you guys to tell me, I put this little heart, I just had it in my stash. It's a little ornament and it was already painted pink. And I put some of that amber glaze on it. And I just, wiped off the glaze and I put it in the middle. And y'all tell me whether you think you like this heart or not, because I'm kind of up in the air about it. I don't really know. I used my crocodile to punch holes in the top because this wood is thin enough that it cuts right through it. I don't know whether a regular hole punch would do that or not. And then I'm just taking some twine and hanging it up. And here it is, guys. It looks, I think, wonderfully old and rustic, but yet still looks like that old-fashioned, elegant look of a heart. And again, tell me whether you like that little heart on there. I'm not sure I like it. I think I'm going to take it off. I think it'd look better without it. You tell me, guys. All right, project number 4. This is our last project and my hands down favorite. So I am using milk paint. This is the milk paint video. Did y'all notice? I'm using the milk paint Oh Olive by Sweet Pickins. And this is Birdie. And I am actually going to mix some Birdie in with the Oh Olive because I actually wanted it a little bit more blue. I'm trying to get kind of a bluish green, but I actually want 2 different colors. If you ever notice, whenever I layer things, I will have like different colors of white or different colors of gray or different colors of blue. And mainly, you know, I know it's a subtle difference, but it does make a difference. And I'm going over this whole wood blank that I got from IOD. I think I still have some on my website. I'm not sure. I think I do have a few. Um, I don't know. I may be out of stock. I'm not sure. And I'm going to go over one coat, and of course, and let it dry with my heat gun. And then do another coat and dry it. And now what I'm doing is I'm filling in the Felicity mold. And this is from IOD. This is absolutely gorgeous. They're out of stock at IOD, but I do have several of these if you're interested on my website. But I I really didn't, you know, at first like it, to be honest with you. I thought, wow, but when you see this, it is an amazing, amazing mold. And I think what's interesting is that it became popular later. It wasn't when it first came out of the chute. I don't think people got it. And I'm also feeling the Bose mold there because, you know, and I'm going to use that actually on something else, not on this project. And I actually have to do 3 full castings of this mold in order to have enough to do this project. And I'm using Fabricast, and it's a quick cast. It cures in about 10 minutes. And all I'm doing here is I'm taking all of the different pieces and deciding where I want to put them. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue them down, and I'm using my super glue with the spray to do that. You could definitely put this down with Titebond, but I'm doing a video and I don't have time to wait for things to dry. So if you guys knew, most of these videos that I do like this probably encompass anywhere from 8 to 12 hours worth of filming that I condense down to under an hour. So I hope you appreciate that because it's quite a job. But I still have to find ways to make it, you know, a little bit quicker. And using the super glue, and this stuff works. It's not coming off after. And so anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put these pieces on, and I put the glue on and then I spray after. And I'm trying to make them reasonably symmetric, you know, but it doesn't have to be perfect. You're not going to really be able to tell. But wait until you see this. I absolutely love this mold. And I really honestly had my doubts when it first came out. And I think other people did too, because I don't think it was a big seller at first. But now it's sold out completely and been sold out at IOD. I'm hoping they get it back in stock. But like I said, I do have quite a few. I mean, not a ton, maybe like 4 or 5. So anyway, you just put the glue down, and after you put it down, I just spray on the outside parts and it gets in there. And this stuff, it doesn't move. It does not move. It's not coming off. It works extremely well. You know, and if you're doing projects and you don't have time for them to wait, it works. So now what I'm doing is I am mixing just the Birdie milk paint from Sweet Pickens, and it is a bluish, more of a bluish green color. And I'm going to put that on top. And the reason I do that is I'm using the milk paint, and there's going to be crackling and chipping and whatever. And I like to have a little bit of variation in color. I don't know, to me it makes it look older, and then it also accentuates all the little chipping and everything. And of course the milk paint is definitely thinner than a regular chalk paint would be, or a mineral paint. So it's going to take a couple coats. Again, I always use my heat gun on each coat to kind of add to the cracking. You always get more cracking when you use your heat gun. And I'm going to do 2 coats on this to make sure that it covers pretty well. And after I do that, I mixed up a little bit more of the birdie, and I am putting some salt wash in this. And if you're not familiar, salt wash is an additive that you add to your paint, to your milk paint. You can add it to any kind of paint really. But it thickens up the paint, but it also adds a texture. And I know a lot of people use baking soda and other additives, and there's other brands. I'm going to just tell you I've used a lot of them, and I hands down love salt wash. I think it works the best. And what I'm going to do is I'm going in with this salt wash mixture, and I'm going around all of the edges. And whenever you do a casting, especially a resin one, there's always a little gap. You can never get it perfectly on there flat because the casting isn't perfectly flat, and probably your surface isn't perfectly flat. So I go in all the edges to make it look more like it's molded together, like this is carved wood or something. And it will, now I do not go in on the castings itself or in the detail because you don't want to lose your detail. But I do hit all the flat parts on that wood, on the sides and everything, and then dry it with my heat gun. And now what I'm doing is I am going over this whole thing with Fusion's liming wax. It's a white wax. Absolutely love this stuff. I love their waxes. They're just really top quality. And now I'm just wiping off all of the excess wax, rubbing it off of the top and getting all the extra off. And now I'm using it's called grit. It looks like I don't know, this to me looks like charcoal dust or something. And you go over your areas where you've waxed and adding extra little kind of a dirt look to it. I think this, especially on white wax, it adds a patina to it that looks very, very natural. And a lot of times when you white wax something, to me it looks like it's too new. And I used to just add a dark wax to it, and I really, really love using the grit because you can pinpoint where you want it, and to me it just turns out really cool. After I put it on, I take a dry brush and then brush off the excess, and it sticks to wherever you had wax. You have to have some sort of wax for it to stick to. I guess it could stick to a glaze or something too, but I think it really is meant to go with like a wax. Anyway, you're taking off all of the excess so it goes in all those little cracks. And now what I'm doing is I'm going over the tops of all of these castings, and I'm using French Gold by Paint Couture. Absolutely love this stuff, guys. I love all of their metallics. They are amazing. You can never really do it justice on the film because it doesn't. They look so good in person. Anyway, this French Gold, it dries a lot more beautifully metallic than you're seeing here, but the color itself is. It's just amazing. It is not really gold and it's not really silver, and it somehow looks amazing with any kind of greenish blue or blue French color. So now what I'm doing is I'm going over the middle of this with some chalk paint, and this is Buttermilk by Paint Couture. It's just a regular old chalk paint, and I'm going to cover the middle completely, and I got some there on my side thing there. Anyway, I covered the middle, and we're going to be putting this piece of decoupage paper in it. So I'm going to go ahead and tear the edges. All I'm really trying to do on this is just get that white border off of it. And this piece of decoupage paper is smaller then the middle of that portion. So some of the background is going to show. So that's why I kind of left the edges kind of green. But I didn't do enough. I went and measured it again. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to add the green around the edges or anywhere I think that it might show. And so now I've got it to where I think it looks good on there. And I'm going to go ahead and use my Decoupage medium on there. And just kind of get it on there straight. I think I had to lift it up a couple times because I put the heart on crooked. And I use my little plastic baggie on my hand to rub it down. I try not to use my hand too much. I use my little fingers in the corners. And one thing I always do when I'm using decoupage paper is I always, after I get it down, I dry it with my heat gun, and that takes out any wrinkles. It kind of works kind of like an iron, like people do the iron-on method. And I go over that with my decoupage medium and let it dry. And then after that, I go over it again with that Amber Honey by Paint Couture. And I'm not covering it completely. This saves product. And then I spray it with my mister. Just to move it around more, and it does save product when you do that. And then after I take off all of that, I'm going to go and make sure I go around all the corners, but I'm adding some white wax in there too because I want to have the same finish that I have on the outside. And I take some of that grit and go in all the corners because, where would you normally have that? And then the very last thing that I do is I take Paint Couture top coat in a I believe did I do satin? No, semi-gloss. And I'm doing kind of a crosshatch motion and I'm stippling it on there, and I'm doing that because I want this to look like it's brush strokes and that it's a painting, and it'll make it look more like it's a painting when it's done. I could have actually done that instead of adding the matte medium on top, but I actually didn't think about it until later, so I could have saved a step. But anyway, that's it, and I absolutely love this. I think it turned out gorgeous, and I love this mold. I just love it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a little different. I don't normally do Valentine's, but this is my version of it. I don't think I'll be doing any more Valentine's, but I hope you like this, guys. And if you did, please like and subscribe and give me a thumbs up, share. That really helps out my little channel. And I will see you guys again soon. I probably am going to do another video early next week, and I will see you. I don't know. I'm not going to give you a day for sure. It's really hard for me. I don't know for sure when it's going to be. I'm going to hope it's Tuesday. We shall see. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone, and you have a very nice day, and I will see you very soon. Take care.